Hello, humans, once again. So, still the 17th, and this is our swearing woo. Okay, so we're done with all of this. All right, so I was sued by a butthead named Corey Good, and Mr. Butthead had a lawyer, and she was, in her own way, also butt-headed. They're both very stupid. He was an idiot to sue me. He's an idiot to sue anybody. It's going to come to no good for him. That's just my opinion, but we'll see. But I got kicked out of that court case because I did things correctly. And I'm not going to go into that. It's all public record. You can go look it up, see what I wrote, and that kind of stuff. But what I am going to do is to describe what we're up against here and why we have some real woo here, right? We've got swearing woo. So on the court case, the court case is still going on. There's still shit happening. It's in Colorado. I'm in Washington State. We're separated by, hundreds, thousands of miles here. Not thousands, but, maybe 1,200, something like that. Anyway, so I got out of it because I disputed a thing called jurisdiction, all right? And I won. And the judge said, no, he has no jurisdiction over you. Let me see. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, hang on, I need a dry rag here, hang on. It's a problem with cleaning these is they get a film out here because of the moisture. Anyway, so you'll notice, as I'm doing this, you'll notice that things are changing out and about in our environment, and there's new froth out in the woo. Lots of it about this ongoing battle, a lot of it starting to show up for the normies about it's not about the election, it's not about Trump, it's bigger than that, it's global. Open your eyes, look at New Zealand, look at UK, look at France, all of these places, right? Look what's going on in Turkey. The money is just collapsing. We're days away from it hitting the United States. Anyway, so I disputed on a base of jurisdiction, okay? And it's especially in law, it makes a lot of sense to understand what each word means and why it means that and how it means that, right? Okay, so ION is a form of an infinitive, an active, a passive infinitive, okay? It comes to us from Latin, which also we take it not in these letters because we're using the Roman alphabet, but it also comes from Sanskrit. And it morphs into UNG for an active infinitive in most of the Teutonic languages, except for English, where it is ING. So it becomes an infinitive by transposition. Anyway, but I disputed that he had jurisdiction over me. And so jurisdiction is a very exact word. And what we have here, you can divide it this way. You can say jurisdiction. You can also say a further division of juris, right? And that's if you really understand the nature of the language. In Latin, and legal words are all based on Latin. Most of the medical words are based on Greek. They just kind of divided it that way. Greek and Latin are very similar in how they're constructed. They just decided to use two different lexicons. It just grew up that way. Jurisdiction, diction means word, and juris in this thing, jur, J-U-R, means I swear, or you swear, okay? It's indeterminate, right? And so basically, when you dispute jurisdiction, you're disputing whether they have the right to use words over you by swearing them, right? And so you go and you have to understand what the word swear means. This is a Teutonic word. And this is how I got out of dealing with some of the regulators on crypto, because I ran them around a little circle relative to swearing. And I told them, no, I can't swear. And what? No, I won't take an oath, and here's why. Okay, and this is basically coming down to what we're going to talk about here anyway. So jur means you swear words that this is true, right? So jurisdiction, if they have jurisdiction over you, it doesn't mean that you're bound by a region, it doesn't mean that you're bound by a state, but it can mostly be interpreted that way because a court says, I have jurisdiction to cast my words over this geographic area, right? I can swear words over this geographic area. And they're effective. They make things happen. So basically, when you swear words, you make things happen. So we see that conjure, which is a derivative there, means with swearing. And it further goes down to, in terms of meaning, to summon with swearing, right? To conjure. And so it means to use your words in an effective way, to make your words manifest in reality, in the material. So jur is a very specific form of language about swearing. It's not to be taken lightly at all because it is the basis for the legal system. It's not to be taken lightly at all because jur is the basis for all magic. Jur goes all the way back to Sanskrit, comes to us through dual roots, through the Teutonic languages and through the Latin languages, both by way of Sanskrit. Anyway, so I disputed the jurisdiction, I won. My words were more powerful than his words. I set things up and I won that particular case in saying that they have no ability to swear words on me because I'm way the fuck out here, yada, 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 all these other things. And the judge agreed, we don't have the right to swear words on you. Corey Good can't swear words on you out there, right? Now, there's a bunch of different ways to swear. And in dealing with the regulators on the crypto, when they were hassling with me, I was able to defer them by saying, you're going to have a real problem. Here's the 4 or 5 elements, and here's another major one, and that is this swearing business. That I can get in and I can talk a judge into abrogating every oath he's ever heard. Okay, because here's the thing. Swear means what? Think about it. What does it mean to swear? And I'm not saying, swear words in the sense of, shit, piss, fuck, that kind of thing. I'm not saying words that are offensive, words that are pejorative or whatever. But what does it mean to swear? To take an oath, right? Frequently when you go onto a trial, you say, I swear that I'm going to tell you the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, that kind of shit, right? Okay, so swearing means that you are affirming. Okay, so swearing is an active infinitive. All right, you are swearing that what you're going to say from this point on is factual. Swearing is further an affirmation that you will stick to the facts and that sort of thing. But we're not going to be concerned with whether or not you do or any of that. We're talking about the actual act of swearing. In swearing, you are doing an affirmation, okay? I affirm, I assert, okay? Again, you are doing an active kind of a thing. It's not an infinitive, but in the way of, you could say, I am asserting, or I am affirming, and in that case, they would both be infinitives. And in that sense, you are saying a specific thing. You're saying that right now, even though I haven't said these words in the future, those words that I'm going to say in the future here, that you're going to ask me questions on, and this is a court case, yada, 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 and I will respond, I am swearing to you that I will maintain a factual discourse with you and put out facts, words that are facts. And so in doing the swearing, you are talking about your future actions relative to this court case, and you are specifically saying that you have an emotional commitment You have a commitment. Only kinds of commitments you can have as a human are emotionally driven. This is what got the regulators, okay? They could not define truth and they couldn't define swearing, and I could define both of them in such a way that they could not get out of me what they wanted. And I said, if you get me up in front of a jury, I will tell a jury why I won't swear, and that why I will speak the truth, and why nobody wants to hear either, nobody wants to hear me speak the truth, right? Because truth, if you go and look up the definition of it, is a fact, a perception, or a belief. All right, so facts we can understand, but perceptions and beliefs, how can they be true? Well, they can only be true, manifest, active manifest, if there is an emotion behind them. And so thus, truth is fact plus emotion, perception plus emotion, belief plus emotion. And so I went to the regulators and said, okay, somebody's going to swear that they're going to tell the truth. And it's like, how can I believe them? How can I know that they will have the same emotion for each and every one of those words that they're going to be saying, and actually say the truth, the facts there, right? Because they could easily have an emotional attachment to a perception, and it could be true, and it's not factual at all. And the purpose of a court is to discover facts in law. All right, so if they're there to discover facts in law, then what the fuck are we doing with perceptions and belief thrown in under the understanding of truth? And so I had the regulators all stirred up, and I was telling them that wait till we get into the swearing aspect of this, right? Okay, so swearing is a further level of emotional attachment to words. So if you go and you start talking about swearing and you go back into its roots, you see that you're talking about a power. And if you go all the way back, you end up with our big skull people. Now, this is where the woo gets real deep and a little bit complicated. And let's do it as a hypothetical. Let me get rid of that, see if this one's any sharper. All right, this is okay. So let's assume that our big skull humans here, normal human skull might be in there somewhere, all right? Let's assume that these are hominids like ourselves, and they're here, from here or not from here, it doesn't matter. We don't see these people wandering around, the pharaohs with their big hats. We see the remnants, the remnants of their culture impressed on our society in the form of the fish hats that the popes wear, all of these kind of very tall, elongated hats, even the fez, right? The fez had a different purpose, right? Because it's a flat top, and it was made for the slaves, so it was a discriminator, the original fez, way back when. Anyway, so if we go back into this and we look at the last video I just made about the biofields within the bodies, then it would make sense to make a couple of speculative conclusions. A speculative conclusion is, look, this sort of makes sense. It might be true. Let's think about it as though it was factual, and let's proceed as though it's actually manifest in our reality, but be prepared to throw it away because we're speculating about stuff and we don't really have enough evidence at the moment. Okay, so this is a speculative conclusion. And you do speculative conclusions in invention process, in retroduction, all different kinds of analyses, all right? It's a worthwhile exercise. So we can have a speculative conclusion relative to this last video here on the stacking woo, that if humans are very complex critters made up of all of these different kinds of biofields that interact and keep our teeth from overgrowing and keep our nose hair from growing down to our knees, that kind of thing, and keep our bodies all together and do all these kind of computational things, and it's all interconnected with our brains and stuff, then it makes sense that, maybe if you've got another 6 or 8 inches of brain matter back here, maybe you've got some abilities that we don't. All right, that normal flatheads don't. Maybe ordinary hominids have biofields up to a certain level, and we're good and we're doing fine, but that these tall skull people, maybe they had additional biofields, right? Maybe they had additional interaction at a brain level with a vagus nervous system that might be very much more complex than ours. And so they may indeed have had the ability to do things. Now here's where the woo gets real deep and complicated. If you follow words back and you understand that humans were under the sway of these beings, and that we thought of them as gods, they may have even created us, they may have participated in altering our DNA, we just don't know because we're a species with amnesia. But if you go back into the language, into the roots of language, you find that words like jur and its Germanic understanding of it, and the Latin understanding and the Sanskrit, and swear, and its derivation and stuff, go back to the idea that swearing was that of the gods, okay? And I have found references to that in another set of books I just got here, which is the complete unabridged set of the Talmud. Okay, so this is in English. It's a Hebrew-English edition. There was only one, as far as I know, ever made here. And I've got the complete set. And in there you find that the discussion among the Talmudians, or Talmudarians, I think, was also relates to swearing as being in the province of the gods. Okay, a lot of this language stuff. So if you look at the Wotan myths, all right, not the Odin myths of the north, but the Germanic Wotan myths and creation stories and so on, the gods had an ability to make manifest stuff in this reality that we do not. And they had that ability to make manifest emotions even in humans if they wanted to maintain the power on it. And this is where we get a lot of these gods spells, right? Kind of things that arise. They came from the Wotan myths. And when the Germanic peoples had to interact with the tall skulls, was a part of that mythology. And I'm making a speculative conclusion that these guys had biofields that did computational things that we cannot, maybe even to the point of impressing emotions onto us because our nerves are not shielded. So if we have a hormonal state, we can get an emotional response from a hormonal state. If we have a particular thought, we can cause that emotion to be drawn up, so to speak. We can conjure it up. And it will then cause the hormones to change. It's possible that we could have this pressed in on us from the outside. That would be easily understood. Anyway, though, so again, just manipulating these electrical fields. So we see that the swearing may in fact have been prohibited to us in a sense. We have, admonitions from parents, don't you swear, don't use that language, don't swear. And it's like, well, why not? Why is that language offensive? Why is any language offensive to any person? Why is there an emotional response that causes an offense? So you have to think about these things very deeply. There was a cause to have language become offensive. No one gets offended by the word why, maybe other than parents of 2-year-olds, okay? Or very few people get offended about regular language. But we do have a swearing prohibition within our culture that is throughout all cultures relative to their own language. You'll find language that is reserved, it's pejorative, it shouldn't be used in the general course of thing. It's the power language, saying swear words in our English language gets you 20 more milliseconds of attention, and it redirects attention. So if you intersperse it in your talks, you can get people to center more and pay more attention and get their fucking comprehension up higher. So anyway, we find ourselves in a situation where words matter, Words matter deeply, and they go back way deep in the woo. And that the reason that I'm bringing all this up is because we're fighting way deep in the woo. So you'll notice over our current time now, if you go and look up Devolution Part 14 by Patel Patriot, you'll find that he's discovered the 6,000-year-old death cult that we're all fighting against and will be fighting against for some period of time. Now, the fight will be really weird because as soon as it becomes exposed, it's done. It's completed. It's over. But we'll have to really clean up for a long time. And there's a lot of damage we have to repair. So we'll still be at war for maybe another 17, 18 years, something like that. It'll be a different kind of war than anybody's ever been in this sort of thing. But so Patel Patriot has stumbled on this thing called Prussia Gate, okay, where the evil Prussians are at the heart of everything, as opposed to those people that tell me that, oh, it's the evil Jews, right? And it's like, guys, you got to get wise on this. You know, it's neither the Jews nor the Prussians. Who predated the Prussians? Who predated the Jews? You know, this shit has been going on since before the Jews started their calendar. We're talking a 6,000-year-old death cult here, right? Before there were Prussians, before there were Jews to get pissed at being associated with this shit was going on. So we just need to get our thinking cohesive about where to look for remedies, right? So we don't want to get hung up on the pattern matching part of our brains, because that's an element of this battle, that we can be deceived further and further and further as we go forward, and easily distracted and easily diverted from the ultimate goal, which is the removal of this thing from humanity. And it is not the removal of humans, right? The individual humans are simply mind controlled. The individual humans are there are individual humans that are corrupt and evil and so on, no question about that, but there are not groups of individual humans. So we're not going to go out and find every Prussian. We're not going to go out and hassle all these Prussians and accuse them of things that, sure, the Prussians were doing that shit back then. Yes, there's all these involvements. Yes, there's people that are involved in it now, but there's a deeper association than their ethnicity. There's a deeper association even than their overt behavior or sexual deviancy. Those are just tools that are used by this 6,000-year-old death cult as points of control. Now, in reading through the Talmud here, I just got it the other day and I'm going through it, you can see in the writing in here how that death cult has started to shape, even way the fuck back when, those Talmudarians that would then take these books and take these admonitions as though being from one of these tall, big skull people saying, you know, do this, don't do this. So you find even in the Talmud, a subtle, if you have a more subtle understanding, you find these great prohibitions against using the words and how much power words have relative to all of this. So Talmudarians are very specifically weak against someone who knows how to use words and which words to use in specific ways, and where power lies in words. It's interesting the things that you pick up at a metadata level just skimming through these books, right? Okay, so not all Jews, as I understand it, are Talmudarians, all right? That these 63 volumes express the oral tradition, and they're used to train rabbis, and they form the basis for the Jewish canonical law, and the rabbinical councils and stuff. And it's their way of training the minds of the rabbis. It's like, boy, these poor rabbi guys. The whole training aspect of this that I've ascertained so far seems to come down to codified reductionism. As long as you can reduce down to a specific codified level of behavior, then your resolution is there. You need not think about it any further, and it's going to be resolved at that level. Very much like what I did with the jurisdiction issue relative to the butthead who was suing me. I just got it down to a specific level, and his attorney was unable to keep up relative to what I was doing, and it was a foregone conclusion that the judge would not find in his favor based on comparing our two approaches to this. So anyway, quite fascinating with the book there, and I'm going to keep reading on it. I've got some other books coming, and we'll get some more into this. But we're into this point right now where the 6,000-year-old death cult stuff is starting to pop up in the form of Prussiagate, in the form of actually all of these people that are out there saying, assigning various different levels of guilt to our current situation. Now, I like the term globalists, right? Because globalist is not an ethnicity, it's not an ideology, it's not a sexual deviancy. It has elements of all of those in there, but none of those are the dominating component of this. So not all globalists are Jews. Not all globalists are Prussians, right? And so you got to widen your vision to what's actually going on and why it's going on, in my opinion, right? So I'm thinking that as our global war proceeds here, we're at this particular cusp because I see things moving out in reality. Like Alex Jones has got a coursework on everything he's learned about all these conspiracies for all of these 30 years he's been doing this shit. Damn. Or 30 plus years. And there's other material coming on out that people are starting to gravitate towards, and we're getting this swearing woo effect, right? Where people are starting to look at the language that is surrounding them and get descriptions other than what they used to have. They're starting to step outside of their former comfort zone and wake up to the conditions and who and why these conditions exist. Now, the who and why we won't settle for a long time. But the fact that we're looking for them causes the enemy class to freak out, even though they know we're looking for them. They know we're hunting for them, right? They know that the herd is the body politic is agitated, anxious, manifesting, moving, and that's not good for the power elite. And so the power elite are starting to really freak out at this point, and it's just going to get worse and get worse and get worse. This is not able to be stopped now. They can't kill us off fast enough. The faster they try and kill us off, the more they wake up those that are not involved. And so there's this compounding of error situation that they've got going on that does them no good whatsoever. And we're at that point with this war. So you'll see over these next 2 or 3 weeks, more and more information piling out. Now, here's the thing. In my opinion, it would be unwise to put an emotional attachment to conclusions at this point, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And so none of us. So there's a lot of stuff I don't know, and I don't know what I don't know. I know more than a lot of people, and I know what those other people don't know that I do know, but I can never see into my own ignorance. And we need to maintain that such that we don't get derailed deliberately by the powers that be, because they will do things like, so the powers that be, the international bankers, some of whom are Jewish, would happily kill off all the Jews that they could find if that would prevent the rest of the planet from wising up to the central banks and the evil that all of these international globalist bankers are doing, right? Just as the Prussians would happily slaughter all the Prussians that are not part of the globalist elite to divert us if that would do it. So we have to be careful not to be diverted by the obvious associations that are out there. So Patel Patriot is in the process, in my opinion, of discovering this 6,000-year-old death cult, as are the people at Prussiagate. And they've just gone down a certain layer and have run into this solid layer of understanding. It's solid, it's there, it's you can stand on it and it's good, but there are deeper layers, there's greater nuance that we need to pursue, because all of these layers are there as stopping points. There is a reason that in all of the ancient, Middle Ages kind of stuff, even ancient Egyptian depictions of descents into hell, they're always on stairs. Never do you take a ramp to hell. Never do you dive into hell. You always descend into hell through stairs. We take this even through the Dante's Inferno and his layers. This is the reason that is because the powers that be want you to think of everything being a step downward, such not a gradual incline, not a leap, but a constrained step such that you will stop at a particular level and you'll never get down to their level, right? So you have to look at the constructs that have been put into your brain by our language and these sorts of things. So over this next couple of weeks, we're going to see the emergence of the war against the bug, and it'll be described in many, many, many different ways. And again, I'm just urging people to be cautious and to always say to themselves, I have this speculative conclusion, meaning that I'm prepared to dump it, right? But my speculative conclusion at this point, for me personally, is that there's a class of globalists that are not ethnicity similar, not ethnically similar necessarily. They're not overtly ideologically similar. They're not overtly religiously similar. But that they all share similar characteristics that may be identified. And even with them, I'm not certain that the individual human, however much they've done evil acts, is individually responsible for that. They may be very much totally mind controlled and unable to alter their own behavior and actions. So I don't know. That's a speculative conclusion. And at this point, it's a good one because it keeps me from focusing on, going out and doing murder and mayhem in retribution. What I want is justice. And we need to have another one of these discussions about the nature of the language and get into what justice really is. But I've got to go and get my bread out. So that's it for today. Anyway, look into the language, guys, and be careful of swearing. Your mama don't like it.